and now at the table we're joined by Maura Clare, founder of Smuggling Nun Irish Poitín, a brand inspired by one of Ireland's oldest and once illegal spirits. Maura grew up in the Irish American community of Fairfield, Connecticut, where her fascination with poitín began, thanks in part to a cousin who famously smuggled some home for her in a holy water bottle. That spark led Maura on a journey from County Clare to Connecticut, Colorado, and back again, eventually learning a historic recipe from a retired bootlegger in the glens of County Antrim. With a background in public affairs and communications, she spent years perfecting that formula, creating one of the smoothest, most distinctive poitíns on the market today. Welcome, Maura.
Thank you so much for having me.
And once I heard there was a County Clare connection, I said, absolutely, we have to get more on the podcast.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So Maura, maybe we'll start at the very beginning. You grew up in an Irish American community in Fairfield. So maybe talk to us a little bit about your childhood and what Irish meant to you.
Oh, sure. So my great-grandfather was still alive. He was from County Clare, from Kilfenora, and he left Ireland at the age of 14. And back in the late 1800s, when people left, they really didn't expect to ever see their family again. But in the late 50s, early 60s, air travel became more affordable and accessible to regular people. And he decided to make the trip back with his walking cane and his hearing aids. And I grew up hearing about his trip and then subsequently my grandfather's trip back and rediscovering our family over there, our cousins, and the little gifts I had from Ireland, pictures, picture book. And it just seemed a sort of magical Shangri-La, the way my relatives discussed it. But that reconnecting with the family in Kilfenora led us to having connection with the nuns, the two sisters, Sister Mary and Sister Nativity, who had come over to the States probably, in their 30s anyway. So I grew up with them coming to family dinners and so on.
Okay. And then was that what sparked your interest in the poitín, or how did that all unfold?
Well, it certainly sparked a lifelong interest in everything Irish. And when I was in my late teens, I read a novel in which poitín was described. There was a scene that was a wake. It was the 1700s during the penal laws, and people were slugging back the poitín in this scene. And I was immediately fascinated. It was still illegal then. And the idea that something could continue to be produced over centuries illegally was absolutely fascinating to me. So not long after that, Sister Mary was going back home for a visit in the company of some of our other relatives. And they asked me what I wanted from Ireland as a gift. And I said, poitín. And Sister Mary hunted it down and got a holy water bottle to smuggle it back to me.
And of course, they would never suspect a nun coming through customs with poitín in a holy water bottle.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and then you mentioned it still being illegal. People, I don't think realize that it didn't become legal until I think 1997.
That's right, just 28 years ago.
Yeah, that's
so.
right. Yeah.
It's the oldest thing and newest thing at the same time.
Right, and so much history. So tell us, Sister Mary comes back with the poitín. What did it feel like when you tasted it?
I have to tell you, it wasn't the best liquid I've had. There's a wide range, as I'm sure most people know, on how well or not well, something can be made, especially underground. So luckily, I was undeterred by that sort of strong and unpleasant flavor that first time. And I just continued to keep an eye out, and of course was very interested when I heard that it was re-legalized.
Okay. And then, I mean, I mentioned in my intro, you have a background in communications and public affairs. So when did you start thinking about, the shift, setting up the Smuggling Nun, and how did that all come about?
Well, I certainly had it in the back of my head after I heard it had been legalized again. And 28 years ago, there was far less small craft production. So it didn't occur to me right away that I could learn how to make it myself. That came maybe about 16 years ago. I started visiting Ireland regularly in the late 90s and probably have been there on average about once a year since then, and developed many friends across the island. And I started asking about it, and I became known among my friends as someone who had interest in this. And let's see, I was in Belfast when I saw my first poitín cocktail. I tracked the brands online. And when it did occur to me that I could learn how to do it myself, I asked everyone I knew who was in Ireland or had connections to Ireland if they knew of someone who'd be willing to talk to me about it. As you may know, people are still very secretive about their recipes over there. It's just embedded in the culture. And it took me a full year of trying very hard to find someone before an expat acquaintance of mine said, it occurred to me, my sister's husband's cousin is a retired bootlegger. And so they arranged for me to meet with him, as we've said, in the Glens of Antrim.
Okay. And I mean, you mentioned it, that people are so secretive, but I think about their recipes and actually the whole just talking about it. But I think it goes back to the penal laws and that it was so, that it was illegal for so long.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's true. And I know some families have said that recipes have gone to the grave. Some people were so protective of them. There are stills buried that people are probably still finding.
Right. Oh, I'm sure. So you talked to your cousin in Antrim, and then what happens after that?
Oh, yes. So my friend's brother-in-law's cousin
Yes.
very nicely invited me over to his farm. He hadn't been producing in many years, but the equipment was still in his barn. It was massive, actually. He told me that at the height of his production, he was selling 15 gallons a week, which is a lot. And he took great pride in it. He had learned to distill from his father, and his father was a distilling partner of probably the most famous poitín maker, Michael or Mick McElhatton. There's a song written about him. Bobby Sands wrote it. Christy Moore recorded it originally. There are many covers too. And McElhatton's poitín was reputed to be the best in the land in this song. And at the time when I was speaking with my mentor, I didn't know all of this history. I didn't realize that I had just very fortunately landed into the lap of one of the most celebrated recipes. So I headed back home. At the time I was living in Boulder, Colorado, And I had a condo with a patio with a high fence around it, so pretty private. And that's where I practiced my craft. The homeowners association had a rule that you couldn't have grills on your patio, but they never said anything about a still.
That was creative.
Right. I think my neighbors thought I was really into baking bread. There was this wonderful smell of yeast.
Yeast, right?
Yeah. So I practiced that for a while, really over years, and I got better and better at it. The first attempts were pretty bad, but from the very first and every run I've ever done, there's just something really magical about seeing that liquid, the distilled liquid, come out of the still. It really is a magical thing. So I continued that for a while and moved back to the Northeast. The pandemic hit, and I didn't have other work. I thought, if not now, when? And I started my search for a distillery that would make it bespoke to my recipe in Ireland, because you have to produce it in Ireland because it's geographically indicated. You have to produce it there to be able to call it Irish poitín. And then, of course, you have great fresh Irish spring water and Irish malted barley as part of the ingredients, and all of that is important.
Okay. And then, so you find the distillery in Ireland, and then talk to us about the name and the Clare connection. Elaborate a little bit on that for us.
Okay, so the distillery is actually in Donaghadee, County Down. My connection to Clare is with existing cousins who still live there, and I very much enjoy visiting with them and reminiscing about Sister Mary. She was 40 years older than I am, so by the time I undertook this project, she was already gone. But my cousins tell me she would have been their aunt. That Auntie May would have been very happy about this and very proud of the brand. When my first shipment, 20-foot container of the hooch, arrived in the States, one of the first things I did was take a couple of bottles to Sister Mary's mother home convent in Newton, Mass. And I brought 2 bottles because I had a feeling the nuns wouldn't open just one bottle. If they had a spare, they would open it and use it. And it was just before Christmas 4 years ago, so almost exactly 4 years ago. And they asked me for recipes so they could have some with their Christmas dinner. And one of the nuns there remembered Sister Mary very well. I had a nice chat with her. Most of them were from Ireland.
Okay. And then, it's interesting, a lot of people associate the monks with poitín, but the nuns played a big role too, going right back to the 6th century as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
Women have been very involved, and particularly nuns, in raising funds for their convents and abbeys, in the production of liquor. And in the history books now, it often refers to the monks without mentioning the nuns.
Right.
When I named the brand after Sister Mary, the Smuggling Nun, I hadn't really thought through all of that, but it really delights me that we're bringing nuns back into the picture.
No, it's great because, I was doing a little bit of research before this interview, and all the research, it was all, the monks and, the Irish monks, and, how it was used, first as, for, disinfecting, easing pain, and then, of course, for, alcohol and, I guess, recreational purposes then afterwards. But yeah, not a lot about the nuns. So it's nice that you get to highlight that, Maura.
Yes, I agree.
So do you want to talk?
I will say too, my family in Clare are breeders of cows, and they still keep poitín of unknown origin on hand in case, for example, a calf is born unable to breathe. They'll give the animal a good slug, and it's used externally on animals too sometimes to treat wounds or whatever. And of course, with humans, at one time it was used medicinally too.
I must remember that the next time I'm in at home in County Clare.
Great.
Okay.
You'll save the day.
Is it right, right? So do you want to talk to us more, maybe a little bit for our audience, that are not familiar with, with poaching and what exactly it is and the whole process, the whole distilling process.
Sure, happy to. So many people think that poitíns made from potatoes, and in the tech file, you actually can use potatoes, but potatoes didn't land in Ireland until about 1600, and of course, poitín dates many centuries earlier than that. It's mainly been made from malted barley throughout history, and the tech file allows for some other ingredients too, because over the centuries there was a range on how it was made. My recipe, based on McElhatton's recipe, includes, in addition to the malted barley, a little molasses and beet sugar, which doesn't come through in the distillation but really softens the liquid. Because poitín not aged, I should say you're allowed to rest it in a cask for up to 10 weeks in the tech file, which gives it a little color. I don't do that myself, but some brands do. But you're not allowed to age it the way you'd age whiskey, which is what mellows whiskey out. So in my case, adding the sugars to the mash really does soften the liquid.
Okay, and then so I guess we can shift. Yeah, I mean, I just wanted. I mean, having grown up in Ireland, of course, I understand all about poaching, but not everyone joining, listening in today will. So that gives a nice broad.
Does that cover it?
Yes, that
Okay,
gives a nice broad
good, good.
explanation for the audience. And talk to us more a little bit about the business and how your business is structured and your export into the US.
Great, happy to. So, as I mentioned, I got a 20-foot container of hooch sent here 4 years ago. And post pandemic, the liquor industry has been, I think, still recovering from having been upended during that period. And some of the leadership in the industry is still very conservative. I think it's always been challenging for small craft brands to launch in the States. It's quite overwhelming. In every state in the US, you have to have a distributor. A brand owner can't sell directly to liquor stores or bars or consumers. So the distribution has been the most challenging part of starting this business. And it's really taken me almost all these 4 years to get to the point where my distribution is finally starting to expand. So that's very exciting. I am very lucky to have landed with a company that does all of my back end. Obviously, as small as I am, I can't have a whole accounting and a compliance department and so on. So these entities do exist, and I am working with one that is also helping me make connections in the industry throughout the country. I've been very lucky to become an approved brand nationally by Total Wine and More, which has really opened up markets for me too. We're just starting to expand in many states because of that. So that's where I am right now. We've been playing around with marketing mainly on socials, which has been great fun. We take a very homegrown approach, which I think some people find charming. It's not a big, slick liquor brand like you normally see, and there's a folksiness to it that we're really enjoying.
Yeah, and that folksiness too, I think it's very much aligned with the history of poaching. There was always this kind of a myth around poaching. So and looking at your social, like it's so organic, which I think speaks to your brand too.
Yeah, it's been great fun. We have one animated reel that is of the nun. We call it The Nun Speaks. I found an artist online who very affordably created it to our script and specs. And a girlfriend of mine from Wexford did the voice, which was wonderful. And that's really been taking off. Another reel that's gone very well for us was done by a wonderful bar in New York, Tara Rose. They put a Smuggling Nun Poitín cocktail on their menu, and they had a young actor do a reel about the cocktail and the brand, which is taking off still. It's very exciting.
Oh, that's great. And how many states are you in?
Gosh, it's happening so fast. I'm not sure. It's really happened almost overnight that we're expanding. I'd say we're entering about 10 now, and there are more coming along.
Excellent, excellent. And you talked about, you're being a small operation and, not having all of, big accounting backup and all of that. So talk to us about, being an entrepreneur, I guess being a woman in business. There are times you're saying, oh my goodness, why did I ever do this? Or
Well, yes.
There are challenges
Yeah,
along the way.
certainly. Certainly. I think the entrepreneurial journey is very much about vacillating between being on top of the world and wondering if you're crazy and kidding yourself. So yeah, it kind of goes back and forth between those two poles. I will say the best thing about being a woman in business is how supportive other women are. That has been so much fun connecting with other women. Virtually as well as locally. I'm very near Manhattan, and the Irish American community is incredibly supportive, especially other women. And I will be entering the Boston area soon. Very excited about that, and it's been wonderful to be introduced to you. I feel as though I have entree to other women business people right away.
Oh yeah, no, we are very excited that you're coming to our Glitz and Glam holiday party. And we're having a little tasting of the Smuggling Nun on December the 12th. And you talked about the Irish American diaspora in Manhattan, and it's the same here in New England and the Greater Boston area. I mean, we are very fortunate to have that support.
It is wonderful. Yes. Yeah.
And I think too, more women are I think we're doing a better job of supporting each other, and I say sharing in the highs and the lows, because there are curveballs along the way.
Absolutely, no question. Yeah, it's most people say who've started a business that if they had known how hard it would be before they did, they wouldn't have done it. At the same time, I have had the advice, which I think is spot on, that the way to succeed is to just not give up,
Right.
to just keep showing up.
Right.
So, yeah,
Yeah, and exactly, and showing up is really half the work, right?
it certainly is. Yeah, yeah.
Um, there's a lot, of course, going on now with businesses and tariffs, and So talk to us, Maura, how has that impacted the smuggling nun with what's going on politically at the moment?
Well, I have plenty of product here in the
Mm-hmm.
States, so there's not that direct impact.
Mm-hmm.
And my hope is that the tariffs will have tapered off and maybe even disappeared by the time I need to reorder. Uh, However, it's had a huge impact because the whole industry's been upended by it. It's a very challenging time in the business. And being as small as I am in relation to other companies, the way I put it is I'm really not at the top of anybody's priority list except my own. So I've learned to be patient and persistent and to sort of roll with the punches. I don't always have a lot of control over my timeline,
Mm-hmm.
and I've learned to be kind of zen about that
Okay,
because you have to.
I guess that, I
Yeah,
guess
yeah.
that is a good way to be at the moment.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
So I do think that anyone who I saw my father go through this in the 70s when he started a business and there was a recession. When you learn how to do business and survive in difficult times,
Mm-hmm.
it makes you very resilient, that much stronger for when the good times come back again. I am very happy to be with Copeland Distillery. They do my distilling for me, and we also share resources in the States. Um, and they do business like they want to stay in business. They were fiscally conservative with their business decisions all along, and they're doing quite well. Some smaller Irish distilleries, I think, are having a hard time, unfortunately, with these tariffs and other challenges. So I am sorry that the tariff situation may delay more Irish poitín brands entering the market in the States. That's very unfortunate. We, as poitín producers, recognize that we need each other to help raise awareness of the category. It's a lovely group of small craft distillers who are making the product. None of the big concerns are making poitín yet. And I'm very lucky to have met most of them at a poitín gathering that we have sort of annually. It's been in Dublin so far, the last 3 years.
Okay. And would you like to see that be hosted here, that gathering, Maura, eventually?
I would absolutely love that.
Mm-hmm.
The founder of Poitín Now and I have talked about that. Someday he'd like to bring it to New York. We did do a mini Poitín summit a couple of years ago. Two of the other well-known in Ireland, brand owners happened to be in Manhattan at the same time. And one of the organizations that I'm involved with, the Irish Business Organization of New York, allowed the three of us to talk about the category and do a tasting, which was great. We called it a Poitín Summit,
Okay.
which was great fun. Yeah,
I've heard of economic summits, but the Poitín Summit, I love it.
yeah.
Do you see the Poitín, the market continuing to expand and grow here in the United States?
I think there's no question.
Mm.
Let's face it, most categories have been discovered by now. So to have something with such an interesting history surface, such an authentic history,
Right.
and it is an amazing base for cocktails. The poitíns that are coming out of Ireland now are really pretty spectacular. They're quite smooth. Yeah, as I said before, it turns out there's a range on how liquid can be made, and they're being made very well, these brands in Ireland now.
Okay, so we'll watch out for the expansion of poitín throughout the US.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. I think especially in cocktail bars, but some of my customers love to drink it neat too.
Yeah, and I mean the cocktail industry, I mean it has just exploded.
Yes, and the interesting thing about poitín is how blendable it is. Even though it has a distinct flavor and scent, I think the scent is intoxicating. Uh, because it so far predates all of the categories we've become used to drinking, it's almost as if it has elements of each. Because it's made in a pot still and it's unaged, the scent reminds people a bit of tequila. The mouth feel is amazing, the way vodka has a great mouth feel, and it's as mixable as vodka is in cocktails. It's got a complexity that reminds me of gin, but without the botanicals. And of course, the malted barley gives that warmth on your tongue that recalls whiskey. And I'd say last but not least, my brand, because of the element of sugars that are in it, has something that's almost like rum about it, that rum-esque. It's a sweetness that's not sweet, if you know what I mean.
And natural sweetness as well now.
Yeah, so it's incredibly blendable in many ways.
Okay, well, I look forward to tasting some of it at Glitz and Glam.
Oh, I'll look forward to sharing some with you.
Great. What's your vision? What are you thinking? What's ahead for the Smuggling Nun?
Well, in addition to expanding around the
Yes.
states
Yes.
and launching some brokers to help me in these states, I'm very much looking forward to doing another run in Ireland, hopefully soon in 2026. That will stay in Ireland and the UK. Although I make it there, I haven't entered the market there yet. It just wasn't a priority. I felt I needed to focus my resources in the States first. But for authenticity's sake, I think it's important to see that the nun is available on the island.
And the island is right, and that's it, I presume it's a huge market in Ireland.
Well, there's more competition, which
Sure,
I've already
right.
said that I like.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's unique among the other brands. I'm the only brand owner that is an American and a woman making poitín in Ireland. And the brand, I think, has a distinct, I guess, nod to feminine values. It's the bottle is tall because the label is a Gothic arch, and it just that Gothic arch wouldn't look good on a squat bottle. And many craft brands are using that squat bottle, so it kind of stands out. And then the nun is a feminine reference, so it's really quite different than the other brands. There is generally a wonderful range on what's being done in the category in Ireland, though.
Good. And it sounds what you've described too, Maura, that it's a real you're set apart from the market. You know, you have a real differentiator. You know, the style of your bottle, your logo, I guess the story behind it.
Yeah, yeah, it's female values forward, without being, I don't know, pink or Powerpuff Girls.
Right, right. And then I suppose, it also speaks to, and what we talk about all the time, the resilience of women as well.
No question. Yeah. I love hearing stories about women in the alcohol industry throughout history. I don't know if you've ever heard the witches' hats that we see at Halloween, Samhain, are women's brewers' hats. That's where that came from. Women, of course, have always had a very distinct approach to culinary arts and developing recipes. So, of course, that played into brewing and distilling very much. I have been reading more recently about how cocktails developed, especially in the States during the Prohibition era. And of course, women did not frequent bars back then. And it turns out that a lot of cocktails were developed by women entertaining, throwing so-called tea parties at home. And this was also very much tied to the suffragette movement of that era. So these women would develop cocktails, sometimes serve them in teapots, and have political discussions.
I know, it's great. What do they think in County Clare? What do the cousins think about all of this?
Oh, the last time I was there, I brought them each a bottle, and they said, "Oh, Auntie May would have gotten a real kick out of this." She had a great sense of humor, and she was feisty, as nuns can be.
Yes, as nuns can be. Well, Maura, this has been fabulous. Thank you so much for sharing the history about Poitín, sharing your journey, all about the brand, the Smuggling Nun. So we're very excited to see you in Boston on December the 12th. Thanks a lot.
Same here. Thank you very much.